Was I surprised? I wasn't. I was shocked, but I wasn't surprised, because if you have peripheral vision, you're going to sense these things out of the corner of your eye. You can't not know that this has been going on rampantly.
Steven Spielberg doesn't have to raise his voice to destroy a career. He just has to whisper, and the walls of Hollywood will come crashing down. That's allegedly what's happening right now, as Spielberg quietly blacklists Rachel Zegler after everything she pulled during the chaotic production of West Side Story, a disaster he'll never speak about publicly, but one that insiders say he's made sure no one in the industry will ever forget. And make no mistake, when Spielberg takes his hand off the wheel, it's not just a personal choice. It's a professional death sentence. Studios panic. Casting. Directors vanish. Producers pretend they never knew your name, because no one, and I mean no one, dares to cross Spielberg, not even in whispers. Rachel Zegler wasn't supposed to be a problem. She was supposed to be Spielberg's next great discovery, the next big thing. She had the voice, the look, the Cinderella story that Hollywood loves to market. The narrative was perfect, an unknown plucked from obscurity.
Never let anybody tell you you can't do what you in your heart know you can.
We are. Look, I don't really like the term woke because I think it's an umbrella term that I'm not 100% sure I even know what it means, and one could argue that sometimes it's used too liberally. That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
And the other thing is simply to use what you're using right now to get this interview, and you can make an entire movie on that device right there.
Handed the role of a lifetime by the most respected director alive. But behind the scenes, the fairy tale was rotting from the start. And now, that rot has spread all the way to her reputation, her career, and her future in Hollywood, because Spielberg may not have said a word in public. But insiders swear he's been talking plenty behind closed doors. When Spielberg cast Zegler, he thought he was launching a new era, a fresh-faced unknown who could carry the legacy of West Side Story into a new generation.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary, that really add to that runtime, and let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension: racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
This wasn't just any project. It was Spielberg's long-awaited musical debut, a passion project, a legacy statement. And he bet it all on Rachel. At first, it looked perfect. Zegler's audition was reportedly electric.
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Hardcore. They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
She wasn't just good, she was stunning. Spielberg believed she was a once-in-a-generation talent. He told colleagues he had found his Maria, and Hollywood took notice. Rachel was immediately hyped as the girl to watch, but once the cameras started rolling, a different Rachel emerged. Sources from the set claim she quickly developed an attitude, the kind of attitude that turns admiration into regret. The humility from her audition? Gone.
She came out and she said, "I apologize. I went too far." But it wasn't sincere.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of...
In its place was a self-proclaimed starlet who allegedly believed she knew better than Spielberg himself. She reportedly began questioning scenes, offering unsolicited suggestions for rewrites, making last-minute costume adjustments. Without approval, some even claimed she openly mocked traditional choreography because she thought it looked too dated.
Oh my God.
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
Imagine the audacity, trying to outdirect Steven Spielberg on his own set. But that's exactly what people claim Rachel started doing. And this wasn't just a few off days. It became a pattern, one that forced the cast and crew to work around her instead of with her. It got so bad, insiders say, that even Spielberg's top lieutenants started raising red flags behind the scenes. And this was only the beginning. At first, Spielberg tried to guide her.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings?
Yeah,
They won't even say
magical
and the 7
beings.
dwarves?
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, That's the only jobs that are there.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Into this, the first villain Disney ever had. It's really getting myself into this big crown.
Gently, patiently. He's known for being generous with young actors, helping them find their rhythm. But with Rachel, it allegedly became a daily battle. Day after day, Zegler pushed back. She refused retakes. She challenged Spielberg's vision mid-shoot. She insisted on inserting her own spin, even when it clashed with the essence of the scene.
Pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And we're not talking about minor feedback. We're talking full-blown arguments about lighting, blocking, tone, things a seasoned actor wouldn't dare contest, let alone a newcomer. Insiders whisper that Spielberg felt blindsided, and worse, embarrassed. He had fought for her, chosen her over dozens of more experienced actresses.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
Remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs. But they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, like we're a disability group, you just erased that whole.
Believed in her when no one else would, and she repaid him by acting like a diva before the movie had even hit theaters. Even more telling, Spielberg allegedly started avoiding her between takes. He'd pass notes through assistants. He'd revise scenes after she left set. Anything to keep the friction from stalling the entire shoot. By mid-shoot, Spielberg's patience had worn thin. His private conversations, once filled with pride about his young star, reportedly shifted toward deep disappointment. He was venting to producers, editors, even fellow directors, saying things like, "She's not who I thought she was," and "This isn't what I signed up for." And when Spielberg loses faith in you, there's no coming back. In an industry where one glowing recommendation can launch a career, the opposite is also true. Spielberg's disappointment doesn't fade. It calcifies. It becomes legend. And Zegler, it seems, cemented herself on the wrong side of that story. The tension wasn't just between Rachel and Spielberg. Crew members allegedly dreaded working with her, too. She was reportedly cold, unapproachable, uncooperative. One crew member even leaked that people preferred working with Ansel Elgort over her, and given the scandal swirling around Ansel at the time, that says everything. She thought she was bigger than the movie, another insider said. Bigger than Spielberg. Bigger than the legacy of West Side Story itself. And while the crew whispered among themselves, Spielberg allegedly made a decision. Rachel Zegler would never get another shot under his watch. Spielberg didn't blast her publicly. He didn't need to. That's not how true Hollywood power works. When you're that respected, when your name alone can greenlight a billion-dollar franchise, all it takes is silence, a pause, a sidelong glance at the right dinner party, and suddenly the message spreads faster than any press release ever could. That's exactly what insiders say Spielberg did to Rachel Zegler. There were no public statements, no front-page headlines, just quiet, calculated distance. Spielberg, who once gushed about Rachel's talent during interviews, allegedly scrubbed her name from future conversations. When other filmmakers asked for recommendations, he wouldn't elaborate. He'd just say one thing, "Not worth the risk." That one phrase, in Hollywood, it's a career death sentence. And the way Spielberg did it, so surgical, so cold, made it clear this wasn't just disappointment, it was revenge. Silent, professional, but unmistakably lethal. It wasn't about punishing her in the tabloids. It was about removing her entirely from the conversation, one blacklist at a time. Producers allegedly caught wind fast. One exec claimed they were excited to meet her until a phone call with someone in Spielberg's circle changed the tone completely. Suddenly, her meetings were getting canceled. Her auditions were postponed and then not rescheduled. Writers started pulling projects. Studios who had once seen her as a bankable newcomer started questioning whether she was even worth the PR risk. Her agents, insiders say, scrambled to do damage control, but by then it was already too late. Spielberg had already turned off. The Fawcett scripts stopped coming in. Roles she was once perfect for quietly went to other actresses. Disney, insiders claim, was the last to hold on, already too deep into development on Snow White to make a clean exit. But by that point, Rachel's image had become more toxic than they ever expected. And the most chilling part? Rachel never even saw it coming. While she smiled for interviews and played the rising star, Hollywood was already done with her. Spielberg had allegedly made the call. Not through threats, not through lawsuits, but through silence. The kind of silence only a legend like him can weaponize. Because in Hollywood, when Spielberg stops talking about you, everyone else does too. After West Side Story, the expectation was that Rachel would be everywhere. Talk shows, new movie deals, red carpets. But something weird happened instead. Nothing happened. The offers she thought would flood in, ghosted. Deals that were in the works quietly disappeared. Directors and producers who once showed interest suddenly weren't available for meetings. And when Rachel finally landed the role in Snow White, it wasn't the victory lap she thought it would be. It was the beginning of a second, even bigger disaster. By the time Snow White rolled around, Disney was allegedly already sweating bullets. What was once positioned as a billion-dollar remake of a beloved classic had turned into a PR minefield, all because of one name, Rachel Zegler. Internally, the alarms started early. Leaked reports from marketing teams and test screenings allegedly revealed that Zegler wasn't connecting with audiences. In fact, it was the opposite. She was rubbing people the wrong way, and badly. Focus group responses weren't neutral. They were hostile. The feedback wasn't maybe, it was absolutely not. But instead of taking the warning signs seriously, Disney pushed forward, likely because they'd already sunk too much time and money into the project. And what did they get in return? A full-blown media disaster that played out in real time. Zegler's press interviews were an avalanche of cringe. In one now infamous clip, she smirks while mocking the original, Snow White calling it outdated, problematic, and the cardinal sin, weird. Generations of Disney fans felt instantly alienated. They didn't see a modern princess. They saw someone disrespecting a legacy. Then came the backlash. TikTok exploded. YouTube commentary channels roasted her daily. Memes flooded Twitter. Clips of her interviews went viral, not because people loved them, but because viewers couldn't believe the sheer arrogance she was showing. Instead of building anticipation for the film, Rachel became the face of what fans didn't want in a remake. She wasn't modern. She was dismissive. She wasn't confident. She was condescending. And she wasn't relatable. She was radioactive. The box office bomb wasn't a surprise to insiders. It was a slow-motion train wreck. Executives reportedly predicted it months before release. Internal forecasts were quietly slashed. Merchandising was scaled back. The international rollout whispered to be intentionally muted. Disney allegedly went from hopeful to damage control, and behind the scenes, Spielberg's shadow loomed over it all. It wasn't just that Rachel had burned her bridges. It was that one of the most powerful figures in the industry had allegedly made it clear she wasn't to be trusted. Studios didn't want to fight Spielberg's ghost to protect her. No one wanted to work with her, and no one wanted to deal with the baggage she brought with her name. Spielberg's quiet blacklist had done its job. By the time Snow White hit theaters, Rachel wasn't a fresh face anymore. She was a warning sign, a case study in how fast it all can fall apart. The media didn't call it a career ender, but the industry knew better. And now, Rachel Zegler isn't just struggling for relevance. She's radioactive, and no one wants to touch her. People forget, Spielberg isn't just a director, he's a kingmaker. His word can make or break careers before the public even hears a whisper. When Spielberg allegedly blacklisted Rachel, he wasn't just closing doors. He was locking them, boarding them up, burning the keys. Friends of Spielberg, studio heads who owe him favors, directors who grew up worshiping him, all of them allegedly took the hint. Rachel wasn't just out of favor, she was out of the industry. And she never even realized how fast it was happening. Rachel Zegler's Hollywood story should have been legendary. The unknown plucked from obscurity and launched into superstardom by Steven Spielberg himself. Instead, it turned into a brutal cautionary tale, because in Hollywood, one word from the wrong person can end you. And Spielberg's word, it's nuclear. Rachel's dream didn't just crumble, it imploded. Allegedly blacklisted, silently exiled, and left holding the pieces of a career that could have been, all because she couldn't see who she was crossing. And now, Hollywood's biggest doors are closed, and they aren't opening again. Not for her, not after Spielberg made sure of it.